So, UFC 295 is just 2 days away, with the main event being Alex Poatan Pereira versus Yuri Prochazka for the undisputed UFC light heavyweight title, and the co-main event being none other than Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich for the interim heavyweight championship. Now, I'm going to be going into an in-depth prediction and breakdown for the co-main event and the main event, as well as a breakdown and prediction for my favorite fight on the card besides those two, which is Matt Frevola versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Now, I'm going to be doing a pretty in-depth breakdown and prediction for these fights, so those are the only three fights I'm going to be covering on this card. If you guys, in the future, if you guys want me to do in-depth predictions on some fights, and then, just quick predictions on the others, or whatever you guys want to suggest, let me know down below what you prefer. But without further ado, let's get right into it. This is probably one of the ones I'm most excited for, besides the co-main and the main event. Is probably the most exciting fight outside of the main and co-main event, which is Benoit Saint-Denis versus Matt the Steamroller Frevola. Now, I think the outcome of this fight depends a lot on how Benoit Saint-Denis fights, and specifically how much respect he gives Frevola out the gate. Because there were times in that Thiago Moises fight where he was getting really reckless, Benoit Saint-Denis was, and was even getting clipped hard against Moises. But I think that part of the reason why is because he recognized there wasn't too much of a threat in the hands of Moises. Moises is a grappler, and he doesn't have a lot of power behind his punches. So I think Frevola recognized that early on and was like, all right, if I get this guy kind of worn out and hurt, I know I can just tee off on him, because even if he cracks me, I'll be fine. I'm kind of giving BSD the benefit of the doubt here and saying that that's why, and it wasn't just because he's reckless and has a low fight IQ. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume it was because it was against Moises, a guy who doesn't really have one-shot KO power, nor does he have amazing striking. So, yeah, I think that Frevola is very underrated. He has one-shot KO power, pretty good boxing. Trains with Ray Longo, good boxing coach. He has very underrated grappling. I see a lot of people talking about Benoit Saint-Denis' grappling. I don't really see many people talking about Frevola's grappling. And fair enough, Benoit Saint-Denis did just sub Ismael Bonfim in the first round, so that is an impressive win. But Frevola has wins over guys like Jalen Turner, and his grappling is just pretty underrated. So I don't think it's going to be this one-sided situation in the grappling as people make it out to be. I think that it's going to be pretty competitive, both on the feet and in the grappling. The body kick of Benoit Saint-Denis will be there, and it will be interesting to see how Frevola deals with it, because most of the opponents of Benoit Saint-Denis have struggled with it. If you remember the fight with Ismael Bonfim, he was ripping that body kick early on and was pretty much just strategically dismantled Bonfim and took him down, took his back, and got the submission pretty early on as well. Frevola's last 3 fights have been first-round KOs, and one of which in New York and the other one in New Jersey, close enough to his hometown of Long Island, where he's had the home crowd supporting him. I really do think that helps him. The crowd chanting steamroll, stuff like that, getting behind him, really gives him some of that energy to just get in there and take his head off. And I'm really going to go with Frevola. I think he has really good chances here. He's the underdog. I think that Frevola by knockout is a pretty decent bet, but Frevola in general is a decent bet. And I think Frevola is going to pull up the upset, possibly by KO. Let's get into the co-main event here. Sergey Pavlovich versus none other than Tom Aspinall for the interim heavyweight belt. Now, this is a matchup that many people have been talking about for a while. It's kind of like a fantasy dream sort of matchup for the new heavyweight division guys that are, running through everybody, it seems like. Aspinall and Pavlovich both have been on tears, finishing fights early on. And as the competition has been getting up, they've been passing the test over and over. Aspinall had that fluke injury to Blades, but other than that, he's been phenomenal in the UFC. And both guys are somewhat hittable. I don't know if hittable is the word, but Aspinall, he's been touched a few times, not hurt, but he has been landed on, a few times in his career. But which is crazy to say, he's been touched in the UFC, of course. But realistically, there has been guys who have been able to find a shot on him while he's coming up, closing in the distance, blitzing him with that 1-2 or that jab, closing the distance as he does. And Pavlovich, I was watching a few fights back of his, especially that Blades fight, and there was multiple moments in that first round where Blades was able to find the chin of Pavlovich and land clean. And, fair play to Pavlovich because he did eat the shots, and Blades has underrated boxing, but I feel like Pavlovich is a little different in that the way he strikes with those big shots and the combinations, I feel like he's willing to take one on the chin in order to get in and land on you. Whereas Aspinall, I don't know, maybe he is. Just to me, it doesn't seem like I think it's more of he doesn't see him coming kind of thing, or not doesn't see him coming, but doesn't, like, he blitzes in for that 1-2, and he's just a little open. You know what I mean? Whereas Pavlovich is open too, but I think Pavlovich kind of recognizes, like, yeah, I'm going to step in with this huge combo. He's going to land one on me, but I'm going to land like 4 on him, and he's probably not going to be able to take these. Aspinall's footwork and his lateral movement are going to be crucial here so that he can stay away from that early onslaught of Pavlovich, hopefully not get clipped early, because if he gets clipped early, it's going to be hard for him to recover, because we know when Pavlovich clips you, he swarms you, and he's extremely aggressive when he finds that finish. He's like a shark that smells blood. He's going for that finish like a fly on shit. He's going to go after you if he clips you, and I don't know. I think if Aspinall gets clipped early and hurt, it's going to be hard for him to recover. One thing I did notice is that Pavlovich ends up square a lot when he's throwing combos or throwing punches in general. He'll end up, either when he finishes the combo or throws the last strike, he'll be square with his hips and he'll end up very square. I think that this will be an opening for Tom Aspinall to time that double leg. If you watch his fight back with the Volkov, Volkov was throwing that 1-2, that straight right, and Aspinall timed it, slipped under it, and timed the double leg perfectly. And there's not a whole lot you can do when it comes to defending the double leg takedown when it's set up that well by a guy like Aspinall, who has he does have that explosiveness of a 6'5" heavyweight, but he's also very technical. That's what makes him such a good fighter. On the ground, I think that Tom will have the clear advantage. I think that he'll probably be able to time that double leg down. And I think that when he gets to the ground, there's going to be a clear advantage for Tom. I'm just saying that we haven't seen Pavlovich work on the ground. He doesn't have any wins by submission, even outside of the UFC. So, I don't know. I feel like it's just unfair to Tom Aspinall to say that they're equal on the ground, or that he doesn't have the advantage when Pavlovich is so unproven, and Tom Aspinall has proven that he has the submission game. And I don't think there's as big I know that Pavlovich does have the advantage in the feet, especially on the power and just the pure boxing ability. But I don't think it's as big. Like people are making it seem like it's so drastic, like that he has no chance on the feet. And I think that that's not true. I think that Aspinall can hold his own on the feet, especially with his footwork and his movement and his speed. He's very fast. I'd say that Pavlovich has faster punches, but overall, Aspinall's movement on the feet is definitely faster than Pavlovich's. I could see Pavlovich catching Tom, but I do see Tom staying away from the big power shots, maybe getting stung once or twice, nothing crazy though. And I think that he's going to time that double leg in the first round and get Pavlovich down, and possibly even sub him in the first. But I think that Pavlovich is going to be able to stay away from the submission attempts, at least in the first round. And then in the second round, I think that Aspinall is going to get him down again. And I think it's going to be in the second round when Aspinall wins this fight by way of submission. The main reason why I'm picking Aspinall is because there's more ways for him to win. He has decent striking, he has power in his hands, but he also has that grappling to fall back on. You know what I mean? It's very key for guys to have more than just one way to win. If they just have one way to win a fight, it's like, well, then what if that doesn't work? You know what I mean? Pavlovich has one way to win this fight, and it's knock out Tom Aspinall, probably in the first round. If that doesn't work, the odds are going to get lower and lower and lower for Pavlovich as the fight goes on. Now, let's get into the main event. Now, this is a absolutely amazing matchup. I've watched a few fights back, and I think I've gotten it pretty clear who I believe is going to win this fight. At least in my opinion. I'm nothing cut and dry in MMA, but this is who I'm going to go with, and I'm going to give you guys reasons why. Now, let's look at Yuri. Yuri normally comes out southpaw, but he does switch stances a lot. So there's no real stance that you can give Yuri. You know what I mean? I know there is obviously a stance that he has, but he switches stances so often that and so fluidly that I think he's very good fighting out of orthodox, and he's very good fighting out of southpaw. Now, let's get into this. Glover was able to get the high crotch on Yuri on his first attempt and get him down. But I don't think that Alex is going to shoot on Yuri. I think it's just going to be, I think that Yuri has the grappling advantage at having trained grappling for longer, so I think it would be dumb of Alex to shoot and take Yuri down and put himself in a position where he's less comfortable than Yuri is. I think that Yuri's body kick from southpaw is going to be there. It's a very good weapon, especially when you're going up against the orthodox guy like Pereira, who likes to fight in the orthodox. If you're fighting him in southpaw, that rear body kick is going to be right there, and it opens it up right on a sweet spot where you can really, really hurt guys with it. Especially you might throw a couple early on, but it's going to be more in the second and the third and the fourth when those kicks start to add up and really do a lot of work. Glover was having success throwing combos and setting them up with the jab. You know what I mean? Yuri relies a lot on head movement and lateral movement and footwork because he has his hands down style. And that works very well when you're throwing singular shots at him. He sees them coming and he gets out of the way. But when you do these combos and you set them up with the jab, follow through with the left, maybe the jab, right, straight, left hook. You know, he's jab, he's slipping, and then the right straight comes. He sort of, especially when you're backing him up against the cage, he sort of runs out of space to move into, and then he gets clipped. You know, I think that's going to be the key for Pereira here, is going to be setting up combinations with the jab and then throwing punches in bunches so that it's harder for Yuri to just evade them. You know, he might even evade into a strike if he's throwing a combo. Yuri relies on lateral movement a lot. He relies on being able to move side to side, back and forth, move his head, because he doesn't have his hands up a lot. He does sometimes block with his guard, but he does not have a high guard whatsoever, so he relies on moving his head and mostly lateral movement. One thing that I'm going to note is the leg kicking game of Pereira is going to be very important here, because if he's able to land those calf kicks early like he was against Adesanya and even Blachowicz, I think it's going to hinder the movement of Prochazka, and it's going to make him a lot less effective on the back foot, on the defense, where he relies so much on movement. You know, if he's not able to move as well because the leg kicks are chopping up his lead leg, you're going to see him rely. You know, he's not be able to rely on these things that he relies so much on for defense. Yuri does have very good head movement, though. I have to give him that. He was slipping shots very well against Glover, especially early on, you know, when he was less tired. So he does have good reactions and good head movement. He just doesn't have his hands up. So if the head movement doesn't work, it's kind of like, oh shit, now you're fucked. You know what I mean? The flying knee will be there for Yuri. You know, he's very good at throwing that with very little telegraph. You know, there is some telegraph, especially when he's throwing it over and over and over. But, you know, the first time, I think it was the second round, when he first landed that big flying knee on Glover, Glover did not really see that coming. You know, he started to see it coming as Yuri threw it over and over and over. But it will be there. I just think that part of the reason why he was throwing that so much is because Glover likes to dip his head, something that Pereira doesn't like to do as much. So I don't think it will be there as much for him in this fight, and I think that Glover will recognize that and tell Pereira not to tip his head because of the flying knee. Yuri's best work, like Pereira, is when he's able to back opponents up against the cage so they have no room to operate and then unload on his combos. You know, I was noticing he had a lot of success when he was not just walking Glover straight back to the cage, but kind of cutting him off and having Glover move this way, and he was moving with him to the right, throwing combos as Glover was moving and cutting off the cage. He was having a ton of success with this, and I think his straights and his uppercuts are his best punches. Yuri's, he does have good hooks, but I think his straights and his uppercuts are his best punches, and I think that he's open for the left hook because he doesn't bring his hands back enough. When he's throwing the right straight, he doesn't bring his hand back to his guard. He throws the right straight from down here, and he brings it back down here, or he throws the uppercut from his waist, and he doesn't cover up. So I think that Alex Pereira is going to be able to make the read on that and counter with the left hook, which Glover was able to do himself. His straight right from the hip is very accurate, and it is hard to read. I will admit that. I think Pereira will have trouble early on reading that straight left because it's hard to see coming due to how he throws it from an awkward angle. He does throw leg kicks, but he's open for the lead leg kick himself. You know, he was in a bit of a league leg kick battle with Glover, and he was landing some, but he was also getting tagged with some. His leg kick defense isn't the best. You know, he has very dangerous clinch work, and this is something that I want to highlight because one thing about Pereira's game is that he's open to elbows because there's no elbows in kickboxing. You know what I mean? It's not Muay Thai. There's no elbows in kickboxing, so he's not used to fighting with elbows as much as he is with kicks and punches. I think this is going to be a very, very big opening for Yuri Prochazka because Alex Pereira is not used to fighting with elbows. I mean, he is now that he's been fighting in the UFC, but like who in the UFC has really tried to throw elbows on Pereira like that? Not that much, you know what I mean? On the feet, I mean, not really at all. And Yuri has an amazing elbow game, So I think that's going to be open for him. And I think as the fight goes on, Yuri's going to gas more, and he's going to be more there to hit. Going to be there to be hit more. You know, Glover landed that huge shot in the fifth round that almost put Yuri out on his feet, and that was because Yuri was a bit tired and he didn't have the energy to move around as much and make himself more of a moving target. As for Alex, his takedown defense has improved, especially against the cage. So I think that if Yuri wants to take him down, he's going to have a hard time because even Jan Blachowicz couldn't take him down. He's a very skilled wrestler. Alex Pereira was having lots of success, especially in the second and third rounds with the low kicks against Yan, who's one of the better leg kick guys in the game. So I think if he's going to have success like that against Yan, he will have success like that against Yuri as well. Straight to the body, like jab to the body, are very good weapons for Alex. I think he's going to use those weapons to set up the big shots upstairs against Yuri. And I think that the lead high kick will be there for Alex because Yuri kicks his hands down so low. It's very hard to defend a head kick when your hands are down. You have to see it coming and block it. So I think if he can set that head kick up, he landed on Blachowicz, but Blachowicz partially blocked it. I think that if he's able to set that lead head kick up, he'll be able to catch Yuri with it and really hurt him because Yuri won't block it. Pereira is a guy who has more and more success as the fight goes on. Yuri's more of an early finisher. He kind of finishes guys early on. We don't really see him go to the fifth round. We only saw him go to the fifth round once against Glover, and he pulled it out of the bag. But Pereira really, as the fight goes on, especially with the Jan Blachowicz fight, second and third round, he really put it on him. In the fifth round against Izzy in their first fight, he knocked him out. He's a very good fighter as the fight goes on. He paces himself very well. Great gas tank. His body work from range is very good. I think that will play a role in chipping away at the gas tank of Yuri, as not only setting up his shots upstairs, but also chipping away at the gas tank. And as I said before, one thing we know he's open for is elbows. There's no elbows in kickboxing, and Yuri has amazing elbows. Yuri has a very good job of framing on you and then elbowing. Frame, elbow. He was landing those on Glover, and he cut him up pretty badly. And he's also very creative with his up elbows, back elbows, spinning elbows. He's a very creative striker. So I think that he's going to have a few chances to land shots like that on Pereira, especially early. And I think that Alex is much more patient than Yuri, which will help him sustain that pressure into the later rounds. But it also may give Yuri an early advantage with the aggression if he's able to come out there more aggressive and catch Alex cold. We saw Adesanya somewhat catch Alex cold a bit in the first round of their fight. And he caught him with the big right hand left hook, and it wobbled him. But Alex was able to recover. And I think that with that being said, I think my official prediction for this fight is going to be Alex Pereira by knockout in round 3 or 4. And I think he's going to find the chin of Pereira in the later rounds, and he's going to put him away by knockout and become a 2-division champion in MMA and kickboxing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a bit of a long one, but I really went into the deep dive of the fights that I decided to pick because I thought rather than giving a gist breakdown of a bunch of fights, let me give you my really, really deep dive into the fights that I'm most interested in. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Maybe I'll start doing ones like this more often, or if you guys want to see me give you breakdowns of full cards, let me know as well, because I would be willing to do that too. I just really wanted to go into detail about some of these fights rather than just give you the gist of every single fight on the card or most of the fights on the card without going into super detail. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll get you guys some content as I'm going to be there live, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.